It's a dangerous world out there. Who can you trust? I don't know. But these guys, I'm feeling suspicious. Brandon S. McClure, I'm feeling suspicious.
Yeah. What does the S stand for? You'll never know.
Ooh, Ben Magnet, I'm feeling suspicious.
Oh, I'm sus. I think you're sus.
Me? But I know, this is my intro. I'm only the sus man. Speaking of sussy, Sparkz Witty, your glasses look slightly off than normal. You might be scrolly. You might be a little scrolly.
You'd think that the S in Brandon's name would stand for scroll, but it actually stands for senior.
Oh man.
Welcome everybody. Welcome to Fake Nerds Watch. We're back, baby. Secret Invasion. Marvel's back. Is it a hit? I guess we'll have to find out. I would love to have some initial impressions from my friends. Ben Magnet, I would love to know, what did you think about old man Nick Fury back again on Earth, dealing with some Skrulls?
Well, it's great to see Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury as a role that we've watched him play so many times throughout the entire MCU. I'm going to need to crack open a bit of a stiff drink to talk about this, because to be perfectly honest,
Sure.
If that expression makes any sense, because while I don't hate it, I didn't necessarily like it, and also I'm not a big fan of the ending.
Oh, sure, absolutely, yeah. What about you, Mr. Sparkz? Are you feeling?
The more I've sat on it, the more positive I am about it. But it's all me like, okay, but it's the first episode, so like I'm gonna give you your leeway because I'm gonna trust that you have a story that these things are leading to. There's nothing necessarily bad, I think, about the episode.
Sure.
There's nothing directly bad. I think it's just the fear of how we've seen them fumble the ball, especially when it gets like this particular route. Mm-hmm. This is of the things they've done, this is the most similar to Falcon and Winter Soldier. So it's the fear that's making it like you wanted to be convinced at episode 1, and I'm not convinced at episode 1.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll bounce off that. I'm mostly positive because again, this is the first episode instead of like the last. But I definitely have some problems with it. I think the performances are pretty good, and I like the setup, and I like what they gave me, but I just think some of the explanation, some of the exposing of stuff was just like, man, this is really fast. This feels like a really fast episode. Some of the stuff that's happening in this episode I wish was expanded to like multiple episodes, but I do like that we are just getting the ball rolling instead of like, so now we just have the mystery instead of like waiting a couple episodes to figure out what the next mystery is. Like, again, I also don't like the ending. I think it's like, there are good ways to do that kind of thing, and I don't think this is a good way to do it. But Brandon S. McClure, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, as the Skrull version of Brandon T. McClure, ST. I didn't even think about that.
What?
My S is just before T. Brandon T. McClure, Brandon S. McClure.
Oh, sure.
That's dumb. That's stupid. This is a stupid bit I've committed to. No, I how do I want to phrase this? Because the second time I watched the episode, I was a bit more positive on it because I knew what I was getting into, but it's not, in my opinion, it's misguided from the first episode, and I don't think it will course correct. I don't trust that it will course correct, I should say,
Sure.
Because I don't particularly trust these productions that well at this point. And of all the first episodes of a Marvel show, which have been, I would argue, probably overwhelmingly positive as far as first episodes go, this is the first time where I was kind of like, yeah, I don't actually think I need to watch the rest of this.
Sure,
and
I get that.
That's not a place I want to be when it comes to the MCU in general. And this episode just didn't get me. It didn't entice me. It didn't get me excited. In fact, it actively made me not want to watch it.
Yeah, I will say of all the pilots, it definitely is the one where I'm like, with your first episode, you really want to get the ball rolling, and I think they did, but in the wrong way. It's so interesting because like I find the first like 5 minutes almost overwhelming with information and like. And it's just very, here's what the plot is. Skrulls are doing this. It's been 30 years. And it's just like very like, if you haven't seen any MCU stuff, this is everything digested into 5 minutes so we can get the show rolling. And I thought that was just very, very fast. And I understand that they want to get the ball rolling, but like I could have used more explanation throughout the episode instead of some crackpot who ends up dying in the first 5 minutes anyway. Literally doing the Pepe Silva thing from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I'm like, man, they're just like really doing the trope hardcore with like the thing in the back with the photos and everything. I was like, all right, this is going very fast, but then it started to slow down a little bit. And I think some of the character stuff is really strong. My question to you guys is, and I feel this from episode 1 already. I can already see that this is going to be a stretched ass show because like this is a similar plot to Falcon Winter Soldier. And I feel like this is the type of plot that could be done in 2 hours instead of stretching out the mystery of who's going to be a Skrull for 6 episodes. And I'm wondering if you guys agree with that or not. And you don't have to agree. I kind of already saw the trajectory of like, they're going to stretch out the villain stuff longer and some of this stuff longer. And like, I'm just curious if you guys feel that.
I think I do agree with that, actually. Thinking about it right now, I think I'm with you because, you know, there's the stuff we get with Gaia. There's the stuff we get. There's all the expedition to catch us up to where the Skrulls have been. Everything feels like it's moving at the pace of the first hour of a feature-length film.
Yeah.
And then we set up something and then pay it off quite quickly. There's a lot of things that we set up at the beginning of this episode that are already paid off at the end of this episode. Leave very little the next episode to wrap up, and it feels like it feels like you could just wrap this up in another hour.
Yeah. So you are breaking up a little bit, Brandon. I'm just gonna let you know. Maybe you might want to reset or something. But I did hear everything you were. I did hear everything.
Yeah, we caught it all, but you are starting to break up.
Yeah.
I'll dip out and come back.
Okay. Sounds good, man. See you in a second.
Yeah.
So like the thing that I'm thinking about specifically is like the stuff with Gaia and Talos, who I really like. Like I actually like Emilia Clarke and Ben Mendelsohn. Like I think they're great. But I can already see that their relationship will be stretched for 6 episodes of like her wanting to be with him but really believing in the cause, and then like, you know, the bad guy influencer. I get to see how like this 2-hour movie, just like Falcon Winter Soldier, is like it's stretched.
To your point, I don't think that they should have revealed that she was his daughter in this episode.
Yeah.
I just don't think they should have done that.
Yeah. Again, this is a really like to Brandon's like point. Like this feels like the first half of a movie, but it's only the first episode of a show. I think that's actually pretty valid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also want to say I agree with your statement because I can definitely feel like they're going to try and stretch this thing for as long as they can. And you're right. Like the whole time when we're, especially like the first 5 minutes of the I almost call it the movie, first 5 minutes of the episode, you constantly think, who's the Skrull? Who's going to be the, is Martin Freeman going to be the Skrull? Is the other guy a Skrull? And he's just trying to play a long game. It was like, oh, surprise. I'm trying to figure out what you all know. And like the whole time you're sitting there watching this, you're trying to figure out who was a Skrull and who's not a Skrull. And I feel like you're going to constantly do this guessing game throughout the entire series. And I won't lie, I feel like it's just going to get really old after a while. Where you're going to
question about that, actually, Ben. Not to just barge right in. I was curious about that because there's 2 questions that what your comment said speaks to me right now, which is one: did you really believe that the guy telling Martin Freeman about the Skrull plot was secretly a Skrull?
No.
Right. And then 2, with the cast that we've been introduced to, who are you going to be questioning as a Skrull? Olivia Colman?
Did we think that the guy who was telling Ross the plot of the Skrulls was a Skrull? I didn't think that ever.
No, but Ben was talking about he was watching the scene play out, and he was saying, and he was wondering which one's a Skrull. It's like I knew Ross was a Skrull from the get.
Not Ross, the other guy. I meant.
You thought Prescott was a Skrull?
No, I'm saying I never thought that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I was saying from the moment the scene plays out, I was certain that Ross was a Skrull.
I think the problem with the show. Sorry, I think the problem for the show. It's not with the show. For the show is that this is the game that everybody went in expecting to play.
Yeah.
Who's a Skrull?
Yeah.
Who's going to be a Skrull? Who's going to be? And if we're going to do that the whole series, yes, we're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, is that I think this was never going to be the show that was going to play with a whole bunch of like long standing Skrulls and high profile characters, because they don't have them.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I've pivoted to, for me, the goal is a good Nick Fury story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it, is like, if this is a good Nick Fury story, I'm cool. That's all I really need at this point.
Sure.
I'm kind of completely ducking out on the Skull mystery stuff. I'm no longer going to be in episodes trying to figure out who's a Skrull necessarily, unless the episode gives me a reason to think that. And otherwise, I'm not going to be constantly playing that game, because I'm not going to have any fun.
Yeah.
That's I think where what you want a Skrull show to be and what this show is going to be, we kind of already should know. And I think the first episode has just confirmed what we kind of knew we were going to need to do, which is like, this is not going to be the secret invasion you want it to be.
I have the comic image behind me where it's revealed where there's like literally hundreds of Skrulls. It's basically like all of the superheroes versus an entire army of superhero Skrulls, supervillain Skrulls. I don't know, like, yeah, we knew from the get-go that wasn't going to happen. Like,
right, well, we knew that wasn't going to happen, but I think one of the things that I'm disappointed by is that we have just decided to be like, we're not going to play this guessing game, because I actually think that was part of the fun of going into Secret Invasion, was like, oh, we've got a smaller invasion story. I'm not expecting Captain America or Thor to show up in this, but we know we have Ross, we know we have Maria, we know we have Fury, and so and Rhodey, and those are plenty of characters for me to play around with and find surprise in these characters being Skrulls.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I agree with Sparkz that this first episode has told us flat out this is not what the story is going to be, and part of me is a little disappointed in that. Now, I will kind of play devil's advocate to my own point by saying I felt early in Star Trek Picard's third season that I would be disappointed, because they play with a very similar thing where there were shapeshifters pretending to be Starfleet officers. And so I was like, oh, well, if it's none of our main cast, that's kind of a waste of time for us to have this kind of plot line. And ultimately, Star Trek Picard was able to tell a very emotionally impactful story that was very good. So I am willing to pivot, like Sparkz said. I am willing to pivot into accepting what is hopefully going to be a good Nick Fury story, but right now I cannot help but being a little disappointed.
Well, I think the thing is, like, I know what you mean, but knowing it's this small group of characters, as far as like characters we've seen before that were being given, not new characters. So like on the table, the only people who we've had a long history with who could have been Skrulls are not Nick Fury, maybe Ross, Rhodey, and Maria Hill. But here's the thing about that. Even if Rhodey had been a Skrull this whole time, he's not a bad Skrull. Doesn't change the character he's been this whole time, going through Endgame, going through everything he's gone through, being Tony's best friend. Like, it wouldn't fundamentally change who he is. So how does it add to the story that they're telling it?
I want to push back only on the idea that these characters need to be Skrulls the whole time, because I don't actually think that's necessary. Because this whole plot line that the Skrulls are doing is very recent. It's post the blip. They didn't start radicalizing. So I could see a world where a pretty good espionage story is that Rhodey was just replaced after Endgame. And so the Rhodey that we've seen from Falcon Winter Soldier on was a Skrull, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm
sure.
I'm
thinking. And I hear you, and like we can do that. That's fine. But like those are our only people we're playing with, right? And then otherwise what we're talking about is, I'm just saying, like, there's not a lot of guessing to be done in this game.
No,
for this show. And that a lot of it is going to come down to, was that Nick Fury a Skrull in that scene, or was that Nick Fury?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, is this no longer Nick Fury, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And I just don't want to be looking for that all the time anymore. So I want the show to surprise me when it has the opportunity to surprise me about, like, oh shit, that scene wasn't Nick Fury, or like whatever happens, because our scope is so scaled down and small.
I love everything you're saying. The only thing that I worry about is, one, that the creator himself has been out there saying, like, y'all, there's one big reveal that you're not going to believe. It's going to be so emotional for you.
You just reminded me. I didn't say the credits for this episode.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this first episode is called Resurrection. It is directed by Ali Salim, written by Kyle Bradstreet, who is the showrunner, and Brian Tucker.
Mhm.
I'm so sorry that's so late.
No.
There it is.
It's okay. And just like all the marketing, if you look at all the posters, it's all everybody's either a Skrull or not. Like everything you're saying is true, and that's what I want the show to be. I'm worried that the show is called Secret Invasion, and they're just going to lean into what that comic is, and with like the cover of Winter Soldier, and it is just going to be in every episode kind of thing. And like obviously we have to wait till the next episode to see if that's true or not. But like just going from this first episode, which I think some of that stuff's really done, like the Gravik, the bad guy, the stuff with him being multiple people throughout the episode, the little girl, this guy, and then him reappearing at the end to show like I've been here the whole time and you haven't noticed. That shit's really good. And like if that kind of stuff throughout the whole show, I'm gonna love it. But like if we're just doing shit with like Maria Hill and Don Cheadle, I'm just like, that just feels big just because it's a big twist, and that's what you do in Secret Invasion. They are doing the comic, but they're just doing it for big twists and not for actual substance. That's what I'm actually worried about the show. And Maria Hill getting killed at the end, she's not a Skrull. That girl's dead. She's gone. They killed her in a TV show in the first episode. I'm like, this decade of this character, who honestly has not been given enough time to really develop, if you're asking me. I'm just like, this was the best way for her to go out, unless you were going to have her be throughout the whole show, which you could have done. But they needed a big twist to draw you in.
You brought up Maria Hill's death, and I want to dive into that. So I want to ask Sparkz and Ben, is there anything else you want to bring up before we talk about that, so we can put a pin in it, or should we move into that?
Do you mean just like what we've been talking about right now?
Right.
And not like the entire episode before.
Yeah, we're not skipping the entire
right,
episode.
yeah. I think my only other point I want to make to that is that I think that we have to try to just kind of meet the show on what it's doing, as Ken would say.
Bro, I'm the king of that. I get that.
But as far as like Skrull surprises and that kind of thing, this is not one where we're going to be hurt by gestating too long on the anticipations of mysteries. We'll have to just kind of.
I'm just worried the show is going to spend episodes
I get it.
setting that up.
No, I hear you.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. All right, let's talk about it let's talk about the fridging.
Maria Hill's death. Okay, look. Because we've been talking, I'm gonna tie the 2 points together because we've been talking about how this show was like, who's a Skrull, who do you trust, blah 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 blah. And it being Secret Invasion does carry the baggage. I understand that the writers of the show were not allowed to read that comic. I think it's ridiculous, but fine. So that expectation is probably not warranted at this point, especially with the final episode. But for me, making Maria a Skrull, as we have been speculating for many weeks, was a more impactful story choice than just killing her. And here's the thing. Yeah, she might not be dead. There's a possibility that she could come back, and it's a Skrull, or it's not a Skrull, or whatever. Who cares? It's just the episode wants you to feel something, but the show, the writers and directors of the show missed a trick there, because that is not a character we have grown to like, because in all of her appearances, she has probably accumulated maybe 30 minutes of screen time, not counting Avengers, actually. She's in Avengers quite a lot. I shouldn't have said that. But like, there's not a lot to that character. There's not a lot of depth to Maria Hill. The depth to Maria Hill comes from her relationship with Fury. And I don't feel anything for her death. It doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't.
I thought, yeah.
There's no emotional impact there. And that sucks, because Kobe Smolder, like, again, Sparkz is absolutely right. You got to meet the show on its level. But, a lot of the press stuff leading up to this had people hyping up the fact that, hey, I'm in this. Kobe Smolder was saying, I'm in this. I get to do a lot of stuff. I get to really like dive into the character of Maria Hill like never before. And I'm like, oh, cool. So we're actually going to get a character out of this.
I thought she was in the whole show.
Out of this really good actress, because she's great. But just kill her. I don't I don't get it. I don't get the decision. Is probably what I'm just trying to wrap my head around.
No, I get it. Go ahead, Ben, please.
Oh no, I was gonna say that the fact that I was hoping, honestly, Fury is back. Fury, Sam Jackson is the main draw of the show, but I was also really hoping to get more of Sam Jackson and Kobe Smulders together. I mean, I like the banter that they have. Throughout this episode, like when they're playing chess, I love that interaction between the two of them. And I like how their relationship isn't just like superior and subordinate. They've had each other's backs for years in S.H.I.E.L.D. And I was so looking forward to explore that dichotomy. I mean, I wanted them to see like what they would do for each other. And the fact that they killed her off in the very first episode, I'm like, I did have a bit of an emotional reaction, but I was like, no, this character who I love. I mean, yeah, she barely showed up. She hardly shows up. She was in Avengers and she doesn't show up a whole lot after the first Avengers film. But looking at Maria Hill, I mean, looking how that she just got knocked out or just taken out off the board, I was like, unlike Agent Coulson, who had a decent character bit, Maria Hill doesn't have that. And I kind of want more.
I thought the show was going to be it.
Yeah, I was hoping for the show to be like, if she were to die at the end of the show, then okay, yeah, there we go. She gets her time to shine. She gets her big moment. That's great. But the fact that they just kill her off in the very first episode, it's like kind of. I mean, the emotional response I had was more anger than sadness. Really, is like you have this character where a whole bunch of I mean, I know S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist anymore. It probably never will exist in the MCU again. But you had a character who was hardcore, very influential, or not influential, but very prominent in the comic books. And now you're just like, nope, take her off the board.
For me, it was disappointment. I was disappointed. Ben said anger. I'm just saying I was disappointed.
You're stewing on something.
You're stewing. You're looking deep in thought.
I don't really want to.
If you don't have a problem with it, that's fine.
That's not it. I have nothing, I think, of real value to contribute beyond what you guys are saying on the matter. I think that, I agree. I would argue that to Ben's point, which I think was accurate, we care about Coulson, but I don't feel like Maria's absent a character. I think it's just bad execution. I don't mean her whole run in the MCU. I mean the death. Because she's had more screen time than Coulson. She's just not funny. Like Coulson was allowed to be funny, therefore a more memorable, easier to latch onto character personality trait. Maria Hill's just been very straightforward. I don't think that's the issue. I think execution is the issue.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a problem with Maria Hill dying in this episode as an idea. I think execution is the problem. Like Coulson, I think is a good comparison. Like Coulson has a whole thing about his death.
Yeah.
And to be fair, we haven't seen the aftermath of how it'll affect Fury, but we know it'll affect Fury. We know what that is. You brought up fridging. You're not wrong. That's how it feels. But like if it was something that was more based around a character like Coulson dying while it motivated Fury,
or she's sacrificing herself in some way. Yeah.
Why Coulson died was about Coulson.
Yeah.
Because of what he did.
Yeah.
This was not about Maria Hill and what she did. Right? Like it wasn't about an action of hers that put her in the spot that got her killed, because then it's her moment and it's not her moment. And I think that's the real problem.
Yeah.
Frankly, like, I don't think there's, that's why I don't feel anything, because she doesn't have a moment. She doesn't have this feeling like this belongs to her as a death. It does feel like a check that box so that Fury does X, Y, Z.
It does feel like, again, like they wanted this first episode to have real stakes. And besides that, like the front and the end, like most of my stuff's now positive. Like I really like basically everything else in the middle. So any where do we start from after Ross? Oh, well, we can start right there. Ross was a Skrull, yeah.
Well, I guess I really don't have much more to add to the Maria Hill thing. Just disappointing.
Yeah.
What I will say, because I do want to touch on it, is that something that bothers me about the show, because it's about Skrulls and Maria Hill's featured so heavily in this first episode, is that we get no clarification on where Hill was during Far From Home, because we know she wasn't in space. Yeah. And we know that during Far From Home, she was being impersonated by a Skrull. So, like,
Talos's wife, Sora, but she also died in this episode off screen.
And then she's like familiar with Talos, but not super familiar. So it's like,
Yeah.
It's odd and it's weird, and I wish it was clarified, and they're not, and that's a bummer.
Yeah.
I mean, could she? This is just me literally asking. Could she have just been on Saber? Like, do they say in this episode that she has never been to Saber?
They don't say that she's never been to Saber, but the implication sounds like Fury went to space and she didn't.
She says, "Welcome back to Earth," as in like, yeah. It seems like more so like he kind of like not ditched them, but like that's his mission up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see a world. I don't disagree with you, Sparkz. In fact, I actually do agree. But I guess I can see a world where there's a more everybody who we have seen working for Fury at this point has a more kind of elevator like relationship with Saber, except for Fury. Like Fury stays there, and everyone kind of goes back and forth.
I wonder how true that would be, because she does at least to say, you know, like that she hasn't seen Fury for years, like no contact.
And then somebody's talking to, and like Fury is the only contact for the Skrulls apparently. So like I'm sure he's just like so busy doing his own thing, he might have forgot about his own friends. Maybe too busy trying to save a whole people's.
I did agree with that though, Sparkz, because I did have that same question. Like, okay, why was Sora, right? Sora?
I think that's it, yeah.
Yeah, impersonating Hill in Far From Home.
Well, and I piggyback off of saying that to talk about Talos' wife being killed off screen, which I thought sucked.
Yeah.
I just think sucks.
And I think that's another way of them confirming that Maria Hill's dead, because then like she couldn't have been her, or like there could be a switch flop. Like both those versions of Maria Hill are dead now. I
think there's a better version of this episode where her death comes at the end of this episode, right? Because you missed this for a second, Brandon, because you stepped out. But I said that, you know, I fundamentally feel that Emilia Clarke's reveal that she's Talos' daughter shouldn't have happened in this episode.
Oh, sure.
And that should have come later. So let's say that happened, right? But like part of the reason we'll learn that later is because it's her actions in this episode that get her mom killed.
Yes.
She thinks it would be Maria Hill, but it's actually her mom who gets killed. If that were the way that we get the Gravik killing Talos' wife.
Yes.
I wish all that happened here instead of happening in a way where we're being told about it.
Yeah, he just tells it to me, and I'm like, I'm supposed to feel for this character I met like once.
But it makes everything far more complex.
Far from
what's
home.
going on, and you still get like a death that would mean something to Talos, and that's all it needs to do.
Yeah.
I
think all the Talos Fury stuff's really great. They like, I love, like, you can feel like the bond that like they've built for decades now at this point.
They're so nice. Good together. Like, like really, like they are the one scene when they see each other on the rooftop is very good.
Yeah. They will be, I mean, Emilia Clarke too, but like those two are the reason I really want to watch the show. Because Sam Jackson's great, but like I love Amendo. Like I get 6 episodes of Mendo.
They have good chemistry.
They better not kill him either. So bad.
I like, for me, Mendelsohn is the best part of the episode. I think Sam Jackson is very good as Fury. I think he's always good as Fury. He's playing a good version of Fury. But I was really just in love with Mendelsohn's scenes. Every single time he was on screen, I'm like, oh, this guy he's clearly having a good time in this show. I know that's a weird thing to say about a show that's so dour, but he clearly likes playing Talos, and he likes playing with Sam Jackson, and he likes being in this world, and it shows. And I think because of that, his scenes, at least for me, really sing.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like, Fury calling him ugly, and he's like, I know what good looking Skrulls look like, and you're not one of them.
Yeah.
Like that's only something you say to a real friend. That's something you say to a friend, man. You just don't say that to anybody. Yeah. That's really funny.
Yeah, even the banter, like don't want to say the good cop, bad cop persona of it, but when they go to that Skrull who's the art dealer, and Fury just takes his gun out and is like, are you gonna shoot me? He's like, yeah. It's like, maybe, unless you. It's just like the whole is like, hey, what do we have on this guy? And Talos is just like, oh, he's like being the straight man, where Fury is the more unhinged guy, because you could tell he's just done with this shit.
15 century.
Yeah, there's enough of the old Fury, because I think what Sam Jackson is doing here is smart. there's old Fury and then there's old Fury, right? Like he's playing Fury as an older man, someone who is more world weary than he was before.
It's a Skyfall.
But then there's some time. But then when he gets to the interrogation scene, we see more of what we remember of the Fury before Endgame, and I think that's really that's really cool that Sam Jackson is able to kind of play that kind of duality with the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Since we're talking about that scene, one of my favorite things about the episode was Talos saying no about shooting him, and when he shoots the Skrull, I said no. That his goal is like Gravik and stopping Gravik, but he views a lot of other people caught in the system as like they're just on the wrong side of ideology right now. But like he understands like a frustration. Everyone wants a home for them.
They're 30 years displaced at this point now. Like, they have kids there at this point. Like,
I think it's
easy kids playing soccer.
I think it's part of it is what I like about what the show is doing, what I like about the arc for Talos and Nick in this season is that they both are carrying this weight of it's been 30 years and we promised to find the Skrulls a home and we didn't. We failed.
Yeah. Talos is 136 years old. We find out in this episode.
Hasn't had a midlife crisis yet, unlike Nick Fury.
No.
Yeah, that was a good line. Like, oh, what did you get for your midlife crisis? The Avengers.
That's pretty fun.
that was pretty good.
I like that.
I know that it's gonna be revealed exactly to what because I didn't catch it. I don't know if you guys did, but one of the things that also was kind of bugging me a little bit about this episode is that they kept calling Talos a traitor, and I'm like, what did he do? He's been helping the whole time. What?
Well, but
happened?
that's the thing, right? That's why Gravik's people are so radicalized, is because they believe that Talos has betrayed their people because he is not working to create new Skrulls on Earth. He's
hanging out with humans.
He's hanging out with humans, and so they see that as a betrayal, and that's why they call him traitor.
Okay, I didn't catch that because I could have swore someone says like, "Oh, what Talos did is a friend to all the," or some paraphrase.
It's not explicit.
Yeah, it's not explicit because the whole time, like, what did Talos do? Because the way I saw it, he's just been. I mean, yes, he's been working with the humans. He's been working with Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. to try and find them a new home. But it's like we got other stuff in our plate. So looking into the stars is kind of taking a bit of a back burner.
Yeah. I mean,
in the eyes of the Skrulls, they've failed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They just haven't done it.
There are children who grew up, like Gravik is probably, I'm going to guess, like in his, mid-20s or 30s now. So like he grew up on Earth, promised to go back to his homeland. And that didn't happen. So he's like, well, nobody's doing anything about this, so I'm going to do something about it. Like, I get that. I like that villain idea. Totally fine.
I'll be honest though. I need more from him. This episode, I'm sure we'll get it. We've got 5 episodes of this left of this guy, but his first impression did not impress.
Sure.
He was kind of fine outside of the scene where we're seeing him kind of go through the other people who have been in Fury's way in the episode. I did like that scene. I thought that was very effective. There's nothing about Gravik that I have been of the Gravik that I have at this point been introduced to that makes me want to be invested in this villain. And I'm sure that will change. We're just talking about the first episode, so it is a criticism that I have for this episode.
Real quick, I just want to bounce off that. The thing that I don't know if that like if this was like the intent or not, but like I kind of viewed it like he was like a mastermind behind the scenes, because like obviously we will get the rest of the show with him, but like there's a lot of talk about him without actually seeing him, and we know that Fury has a relationship with him, and he grew up with Nick Fury basically. So like a lot of this like setting up who our bad guy is, and then we see him throughout the entire episode without actually seeing him, and then at the end he reveals himself, and I'm like, what's up? I have been 10 steps ahead of you the whole time. That is a trigger enough for me to be like, I don't know enough about you, but that is really enticing, and I think you are a threat to the world, and that makes me invested in you as a bad guy. So like I am excited to see more of him.
He's like a cult leader.
Yeah.
He is. Go ahead, Sparkz.
Well, no, he isn't. He's a little different. Because what I was going to say is like, are you saying you need more from him as a character, or you just need more from the performance?
More from the performance. Okay. Because there's nothing in his performance that gets me interested in this character, because he's what we got with 2 scenes with him before that. Is it 1?
2, I think.
2. I believe it's 2. both those scenes were just kind of nothing to me. He was just kind of bland and blank, and I was like, this is not a villain performance for me. This is a bland performance for me.
I don't need more. I can agree with the performance part. I don't need more character stuff though. I think he's like motive wise we're good. History wise we're good. I am the radical thinker who is willing to make this planet a home for Skrulls, and Talos isn't. And I've grown up hearing like, eventually we're going to find you a home. Eventually we're going to find you a home. No, I'm going to take a home. That's it. And I think that's fine. I think that's enough. Because my point being, to respond to what Ben was saying, like, he's not a cult leader, right? We've seen the cult leader for the refugees. That was in Moon Knight.
That's Harrow.
Yeah. That's not what he is. And this isn't the Flag Smashers either. I do think that there's something of value to the fact that, like, I do believe this is genuine. I don't think this is a trick. He's trying to do what he believes is best for the Skrulls. And what he believes is best for the Skrulls is taking over the planet. But he will not make the refugees do it. Mm-hmm. He will offer it to them. Otherwise, they just have a place that they've secured where they can live.
It is a refugee camp,
right?
Yeah,
and I think that's different than the mentality our other gatherers of displaced individuals have had in the MCU, and I think that's why, like, I'm not getting nervous vibes the same way I was about Flag Smashers, because, like, the goal is different. This is not the same thing. And how they're going about it is different. So that makes me really happy. I have noticed that, like, there is, I don't know what, and probably nothing they are trying to do at large with the MCU, but there's a lot of refugee stories in a lot of different ways ever since Thanos, because we just brought up Harrow from Moon Knight. We've got, obviously, the Flag Smashers. We've got this. You've got the Asgardians. Yes. There's no, like, major crisis with them, but they are refugees.
They're allowed to have a place because they look like regular humans.
Right. It just feels like they keep knocking at this door. I do wish that I felt like there was some kind of purpose to that.
Yeah. I want to bounce off that one, because that's kind of where I think the show could potentially be misguided. And I'm not saying it is at this point, because this is just the setup episode. I fear because of this kind of have it both ways mentality that the MCU has had with refugee crises in the shows in the past, to have Gravik not have any sort of meaningful impact on the Skrulls' plight, right? Like he wants the Skrulls to have a home. The way he's going about it is by taking a home, which is wrong. But he still wants to have he still wants to give the Skrulls a home. I am just concerned, due to previous track record, that there will be nothing in the end of the show to be what I talk about all the time. The one who did the one of the best villains in the MCU is Killmonger, because Killmonger affected our hero in a positive way. Killmonger's methods were wrong, but he was actually right. So T'Challa has to go to the world and be like, hey, this person's methods were wrong, but he wasn't necessarily. And I want to see that continue.
Yes.
And it hasn't yet. And I'm worried that it won't.
Yes. So to go off of that, I Gravik is our villain, but I don't think he's a person that we need to be putting that on. It's Gaia. And if she's going to be a bad person or a good person, she's the central focus character of the show, I think.
And I think, to your point, the person who will ultimately be the deciding, like, guiding hand for the future of the Skrulls, what it will actually do.
Because she is just like Gravik. She is a person of two worlds, but, like, having Talos as your dad, like, probably gives her a little more a love for Earth that we probably haven't seen yet, but I'm sure she does. She seems hesitant. Like, she obviously revealed stuff to her dad and stuff. So, like, she is the character that I'm like, as long as Gravik is a good villain.
She also set them up. So
that's what I mean. She is the character we're going to be following, who we're going to have that character journey of. I hope Gravik can just be a fun bad guy.
That's much to the point of why I was saying, like, it kind of doesn't matter what more we learn about Gravik. Yeah. Gravik is exactly as much character developed as they need to be, because Gaia is the linchpin in the actual story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And just to put a cap on what I was talking about from Gravik, I just need more from the actor. I don't think the performance isn't there yet, and I just want more from it.
That's fair. I love it.
Yeah,
Speaking of great performances, Ben, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I agree with that.
Yeah.
Speaking of great performances, Olivia Colman has entered the MCU, just being wonderful and chipper and talking about her dumbass mercenary men.
That scene is so good.
Yeah, Yeah, love her.
It's
Love
like
her.
it's in a different show.
Yeah, it's incredible. Olivia Colman elevates everything she's in, and she's mostly in great stuff. So it's like, you know,
And Sam Jackson meets her.
Yeah, it's really great.
You know what this show really shows, I think? Sam Jackson will be as good as whoever he's playing off of.
Who's bouncing off of? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. He the banter between the two of them is their energy is just so matched, and they're so paired so well together. Their chemistry is really good. Like I'm looking forward to more scenes with the two of them.
You know, they have a history, like decades long history of like since he was probably like a young spy. Like they're both in this spy game forever.
Right.
Mhm.
That's gonna be so fun chewing on probably.
I think Sam Jackson's always at a base level of like good. That he won't go below.
Yeah.
But if someone's elevating the material, he'll always go up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That scene's very good. You feel like I really like just the way that Nick is handling it of you know, like old Nick would have never let
him get captured.
my goons grab you, and he's like, I obviously wanted to just talk to you.
Yes.
Come on. Like and like it's just on the line in the performance where like, is Nick old? Did he just not? Did he hope this would happen? But he still didn't think he was going to get caught then. Like he still didn't see that coming, but it's still what he wanted. Like
that's what's fun because like he's the world's greatest spy, but he's also like 400 years old.
Right.
So like, is it him messing up, or did he actually do that on purpose?
Right.
So, like
he's always lying.
I hope every episode is gonna have something like that, where it's like almost like Mr. Magoo, like meant that to happen.
It's like, yes, we captured Nick. It's like we captured Nick Fury. Is like, hey, you brought me to your secret base. I've been waiting for this. It's like, no, you didn't. It's like that.
Because Olivia Colman has known Fury for so long that it's very clear that Olivia Colman doesn't buy it because she's looking at this like, these two, my mediocre henchmen captured you and you call them extraordinary. That's not Nick Fury, I know. Yeah, and Fury is like, well, obviously I wanted to be captured.
Totally, 100%.
It's a very good scene.
He puts the little contact lens on the owl eye. That's good spy stuff. Can't put that on a book.
Oh my goodness. The way the scene is played. So there's been this weird observation that I can't unsee, which is very rare. Characters don't really interact with like objects in scenes in the MCU films and shows anymore. Not really, outside of like specific moments. And so like watching this, like Sam Jackson's touching things and he's walking around. He's like, oh, look, what's all this stuff? I'm like, oh my God, this feels so natural. It feels like he just is at home in this place.
Yeah.
He's on a set.
And they filmed on location, which is one thing I love because you can tell it looks like it's filmed on location.
It does. I think because again, this show is not the story of the comics. I do wish that they would stop naming stories that are not like the stories of the comics after the comics. Just come up with a new title. Be inventive for once.
Yeah.
I
say you're inspired.
I stand by that. Because you're just like setting up problems. Like, just don't call it the comic. It's not the
Age of Ultron. You should have learned this lesson with Age of Ultron when everyone got pissed off that wasn't the Brian Michael Bendis comic.
And that one specifically was weird because that comic was like still coming out, and you're like, "There's no way you're adapting this comic that's not even finished. That doesn't even make any sense." And also, that movie, that comic was also ridiculous.
But to that point, like the story that we are getting, what I do like is what Gravik is doing with the Skrulls, and then Olivia Colman's character finding out the Skrulls are here, and she will kill them.
Yes.
And like Nick being like, I need to stop Gravik, but I also can't have you kill all the Skrulls because I'm trying to save the Skrulls. Yeah. I want them to have a home.
She's scorched. That's my goal
policy. Right. And I like that we've set up like these are the stakes. This is the scale. It's right here in Russia. This is
what this honestly reminded me of, and I don't think it's just because I'm rewatching all these movies. It kind of reminded me of Mission Impossible a little bit. Yeah, with the face reveals and the data and the spies and the kidnapping. I was like, yeah, I love spy stuff.
I wrote this note down and I just looked at it. So I'm going to bring this up to you because I want to know if you guys find this note as funny as I do. It's perfectly fine if you don't. But I say, so are we going to earn the eye patch? Because he doesn't have the eye patch in the whole episode, which is fine. He's not the old Nick Fury.
And he's wearing it again in the Marvels, right?
Yeah, he's wearing it again in the Marvels. Yeah. And so like I'm wondering like by the end of the show, is there going to be like some big reveal like eye patch, coat, I'm back.
Well, we do see in the trailer he goes to like a cemetery and
He does,
and he puts a coat on, like, and it's the end of the trailer. So does he put an eye patch on just to have the look for fashion?
We're never going to get past that stupid comic of Jim Gordon from Gotham receiving the mustache at the end of the final episode of Gotham. We're never going to get past that.
I feel like if I wanted to engage with this in a sincere way, the intention is that is a way, and there is too much tell over show in this episode, trying to give us that this is not the Nick Fury that people are used to. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I'm not entirely convinced that isn't all an act.
Yeah.
From the moment that he beams down and has that limp, I'm like, I'm not 100% convinced that he's not aware he's immediately on watch when he gets down there and is trying to put people off guard with him.
So because you said that, reminded me of another note that I have, which is kind of a more sincere way of saying my stupid note, which is there are 3 times in this episode where a character tells Nick Fury, you weren't the same after the blip, or in Olivia Colman's case, Thanos' snap.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I just real quick have to focus on that because first off, when she said Thanos' snap, I'm like, why can't everybody say this? Why do we have to call it the blip? The blip is insensitive. It doesn't make sense for people who actually went through this traumatic event, whether they were the people who were blip or the people who had to deal with their loved ones being gone for 5 years. It just sounds stupid. Just everyone should say Thanos' snap. And my headcanon is that Olivia Colman saw it in the script and said, I'm not saying that. I'm saying Thanos' snap.
Because she knows what Thanos' snap is. She's got it on lock. She's seen all the movies.
Because the thing that's so that Sparkz is absolutely right about, there's a lot of telling, not showing. And in this kind of like spy espionage show, you want a lot of show, not tell.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but because you get so much of it, by the time I think Maria Hill is the third person to say it, I was like, okay, we get it. He's not the same Nick Fury after the blip. I get it. Talos says it first, then Coleman says it the second, and then Maria Hill says it third. That's
why I need to see another episode to fully buy into it, but I can 100% believe that he's faking all this stuff just to seem less impressive. But again, like it's too early to tell. But like that is a awesome theory that like he wants people to think less of him, so he always has the upper hand. And that's a great spy.
And
I don't think that just real quick. I don't think that invalidates that he is dealing with trauma.
Yeah.
I think both things can be true, that he is weaponizing it to his advantage and trying to use it like a tool, but also is traumatized. That I think there is an amount of responsibility he feels for all of it.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, I can see that. I mean, you said that kind of heading off a point that I think you knew I was about to make, which is the scene with Hill and Fury where they're playing chess, and he says the reason why I haven't been to Earth is because I had too many demons here. Why'd you come back? They followed me up there. Like the idea that he ran away because of the snap was, I mean, you can also make the case that, as Sparkz said, that both could be true, that he did run away from Earth, but he's not as rusty as everyone thinks he is. And but you know, there could also be the case that like he's using skills he hasn't had to use in a while.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So he is rusty, just not as rusty as he's letting on.
Right.
All these could be true.
I think that's very much like, isn't that very Nick Fury for him to recognize in himself that like, man, I'm still messed up. I'm still not at my A game.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to see that. I better give them a lot of that to see.
Yeah.
Like I hope that's the angle, because I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that you can have your cake and eat it too. That might be situation.
That bring up the eye patch. That might be part of the eye patch thing. You see the eye, you're like, oh, Nick Fury, you can't see. He's like, you know, that guy has.
This is my
lost
point.
It. Yeah.
This is my point. Is that he's usually like he's kind of throwing them off.
Yes.
Because people are used to not seeing his eye.
Yeah.
It makes him look vulnerable.
Yes. 100%.
That's a good point. I mean, it could be. We'd have to wait to see what happens there.
I'd like to think that there's a purpose and a thought behind it, because I feel like you really can deliver on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a good scene between him and Hill. So I do think that there's a lot of truth to the idea of Hill feeling kind of abandoned and Fury being like, I haven't worked through shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that scene with him and Hill, by the way, just because I like Sam Jackson with Kobe Smulders. I think they've always been good together.
Yeah.
And that kind of idea that you're talking about plays into what we saw in Age of Ultron, right? When he goes to the Avengers and he's like, well, what do we? And the Avengers are all like, well, what do we do? He's like, you guys know what to do,
right? Yeah, I have you.
I don't, not me,
right?
And because he recognizes his weaknesses and he knows that the Avengers can do something he cannot.
I think there's also an amount of like Fury feeling like he took his eyes off the ball on S.H.I.E.L.D. and that screwed up. So he decided like the best thing I can do is take my eyes off the Avengers and trust them to do what they need to do. And the more we get into this kind of stuff, the more it bothers me that Nick Fury isn't involved in Civil War, nor is there any like story beat about how he felt about the Avengers having the Civil War events, because that feels like when his eye should have gone back on them, but we don't get that as an idea or a story beat. Like that's just not something the MCU left room for. So I hope that is something you can kind of work through on like Fury feeling like in a way he set the Avengers up for failure. Like Thanos would have been stopped had he kept his eye on them because Civil War wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Sure, and that could be why he's so obsessive with Saber, right?
Right.
He was not taking his eye off of Saber because of what happened with the Avengers.
Right.
He's building a shield around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Dylan McDermott?
Mulroney.
Dermot Mulroney.
He's a Skrull, right? We're all in agreement.
1000%.
Yeah.
We know there's a new president right around the corner.
So that's this is where like being like an online nerd and like knowing that there's a new president in like 6 months is like, well, something's happening with this president, whether he's a Skrull and dies or he's not a Skrull and dies anyway because Rhodey's a Skrull, like one of them is a Skrull. He hisses at him at the end. He's like, do it. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Hello, Mr. President Skrull. You're definitely a bad guy. That's fun. How deep that goes, I'm really curious. Instead of, is it just going to be Rhodey talks to the president once an episode, or are we going to be going like, we're not going to get like Hideki Anno, like government going from like building to building to building, like I want, but the Skrull version. Can you imagine like Hideki Anno's Secret Invasion? God, through bureaucracy. We're definitely not getting that. So I'm curious how much the president actually has a role instead of just like the leader of the country's a Skrull. Whoa. Like, I hope it's more than that because I like that actor a lot.
To that point, I'm sure they're not going to do this. I really wish they would reveal that Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character was a Skrull.
Oh, I don't want her in this show.
No, power broker.
Let me explain why. All her scenes in Wakanda Forever are suddenly far more important and make more sense because the entire goal here is to make nations fight each other.
It's true.
And that's exactly what she was doing.
And Ross was there.
If she's in on that game, then this makes sense.
It's true.
All of a sudden, her scenes in Wakanda Forever are justified to me.
She's building a super team, maybe to take all their powers and shit. Who knows?
Ryan, you said the power broker, and now I'm sad.
Because I only want her to be a Skrull just so it fixed that character assassination.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
That's the only reason.
I'm in agreement. Like, I do want Sharon to be a Skrull because I just want to be able to be like, that wasn't Sharon. They would never.
I want Sharon back. Bring Sharon back.
Because they absolutely did.
Has anybody seen Sharon Carter?
But
bring Sharon back.
The moment in the show where they were talking about like when he's laying out at the beginning, there are more and more of these kinds of things happening. These things that are trying to put nations at odds with each other. It's all Skrull stuff. I'm like, well, that's literally what happened in Wakanda Forever. And on the timeline on Disney Plus, that was the year before the year that we're in right now. So I'm just saying, right there.
Yeah. Agent Prescott. Prescott? That was the guy's name?
Prescott.
Beric Dondarrion, immortal priest of the Lord of Flame from Game of Thrones. Ben, Mr. Flaming Sword himself. Love seeing that guy. Again, only 5 minutes, but he's got a cool tie. He looks crazy.
Someone had a really great tweet where it's like the best thing that you can do is get two British actors in a room together with American accents and see which one's vowel slip quicker.
That was Joanna Robinson.
That's great.
Of the Ringiverse.
Wow, what a great website.
Yeah. Just also real quick, the Dreyfus thing would explain how they nabbed Ross and swapped out Ross.
Yes.
You could have argued that was the end of Wakanda Forever. We do know that it is an imposter of Ross, which means at least everything we've seen before this is not a Skrull.
And I think they importantly, they show you that that there's separate things. Like they can just take your face as like an imposter, but like to have your memories and all that, you need to be put into the machine, the scroll machine at the base.
Yeah.
So like people can just look like you, but they won't have your memories or your personality or anything.
And we know that Ross couldn't have been the Ross that we met in Wakanda Forever because Ross would have had to have been recruited by Fury and Hill after he left the CIA.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And saved by Okoye and I thought extracted to Wakanda. But also because he's actively working against Dreyfus's goal, which is to make the nations fight each other.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, if he's a Skrull, then he's a good Skrull.
And then she,
And so not the Skrull we see at the beginning of the series. So like, that's just something that's like,
right
there. That could get messy. Yeah.
I had this comment originally. So when I first watched it, I don't know if you guys have a similar glitch. I doubt that Ryan and Sparkz do because they have a very big and nice and colorful TV. But Disney Plus has a specific glitch that every now and then when you watch something on their service, it'll be darker than it's supposed to be, and you exit out and you come back in and it's fine. But so watching it the first time, Secret Invasion was very difficult to watch because it was darker than apparently it should have been, because when I watched it the second time, it was brighter. That said, I still found myself thinking that, and this is just across the board MCU, I want to point out, the nighttime sequences are horribly lit, and I need film and TV to go back to lighting those damn things with not natural lighting, because it's getting ridiculous, because you have two figures head to toe in black running through a black roof, and I'm like, I guess I'm following this.
To your point, we've been watching the Mission Impossible movies, and I'm looking at the night scenes there, and I'm like, there's no reason MCU night scenes shouldn't look like this.
Yeah.
And it's not just like the MCU, right? Like the MCU is a big focus, but like just a general idea of like, there's no reason lighting shouldn't be as good unless like just people have not been teaching good film lighting for the past decade.
Right.
I guess it's possible.
Yeah.
You go back to like Lord of the Rings has very extravagant nighttime lighting. I'm not necessarily talking about that, but the thing that was really important is that there's a line that said, "Hey, where's the light coming from in this scene? Where's the music coming from? It's coming from the same place."
Right.
It's coming from this ethereal plane that is watching a movie.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that that's really important. And so like, it is not a criticism. It is not, I am criticizing Secret Invasion for it because I think that nighttime chase sequence is poorly lit.
Yeah.
But it is a problem that is pervasive in the blockbuster market and film market in general.
100% agreed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I do want to get into, I really like the story of what they're doing in this show, because of the core of it being about this kind of like guilt that Talos and Nick are carrying through it about not finding the Skrulls a home.
Yeah.
I feel like a major player needs to be involved. That's probably not going to be, and that would be Captain Marvel.
She's off planet.
Right. But it's not necessarily,
she's always off planet.
Even if that's the excuse of like what she's doing right now, I really hope they at least talk about like Carol went looking.
Yeah.
That's where we left her at the end of her movie, with a Skrull ship going, trying to find a place.
They'll probably talk
and they
about
never
it.
found nowhere
Yeah.
or anything like that. Real quick, on the note of refugee stories, I would be remiss not to point out that same deal, kids from the High Evolutionary, nowhere, refugees. We keep circling that in these MCU properties. Anyway,
Thor.
Yeah, the Asgards. It just feels like they have to at least talk about Carol, even passively mention Carol failing to find them a planet or something in some way, because like that, at least for like, let's assume 5 years, that's what she's doing immediately after Captain Marvel. That's the goal. And she fails. Like, it has to be mentioned.
And the thing is, what kind of bumps me out about that whole situation is we know they meet up in a movie in like 3 months.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel is
against her will, to be fair.
True.
She was busy.
True. You know,
and she gets teleported onto Earth.
That's actually a very good plot reason why she could literally be across the universe and something random. So that's actually valid. I take it back. That's totally cool.
But what was that conversation at Tony's funeral between Carol and Nick?
Yeah.
Because they were both there.
Yeah.
Right.
Was there a conversation? Was that the last time Carol and Nick saw each other? Where they were just like, I can't be here because I'm so embarrassed by the fact that we haven't done this.
Yeah, I'm really curious if Captain Marvel, because this Secret Invasion comes from the Captain Marvel movie, and it looks like just from the trailers that they're not doing any Skrull stuff in the Marvels. So Nick Fury being there, like, I'm really worried they're gonna do some like yada yada. It's a 1 minute line of like, hey, remember that thing with the Skrulls? Yeah, it happened.
We also know there's supposed to be a lot of Skrulls on Saber.
There's like that.
We see like a bunch of them at the end of Far From Home.
Yeah.
Not thousands, but like there, there's at least a good 100.
Okay.
That it's not every person besides Nick on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
It is a good chunk are Skrulls, though.
Okay.
They're a known quantity. I'm gonna pitch something that the show is probably not doing, so be prepared to be fully disappointed with the thing I'm setting up. But what if we're totally wrong about what we think Saber is, and it's not about like threats out there necessarily? Maybe that's an advantage of it. What if that's not its only feature? What if the main thing about it is for it to monitor the situations on Earth safely enough where they're able to create a space on Earth that is for the Skrulls? What if that is the goal? What if they are trying to find a way to section out a place where they can manage what's going on post blip? Maybe this is to fix all the refugee situations. That's definitely not what they're doing.
That's
100% not what they're doing. But what if it was? What if Saber, why Nick is so obsessed with it is a part of the way for him to fix his failure, quote unquote, of finding the Skrulls?
That would be dope, and I feel like he would have said that to us a long time ago.
Sparkz, I want to have a conversation with you about this refugee crisis thing. Not now, but like in general, because we could derail this for another hour if you want, but I'm not saying we should, because I think you're absolutely correct. There is something. The MCU is literally knocking on a very specific door that they keep going back to over and over and over and over again. And why? Why don't they do anything meaningful with it?
I can tell you why, because Secret Wars is happening and universes are being imploded, and all those people are going to have to come to Earth because it's all about it's galactic refugees.
I don't think that's. I think that's a good theory, but I don't think that's why. I think
it's all that on my ass. There is no real good reason. Yeah.
Is it accidental? Is it just because there is?
I think it's accidental.
We're running right up to the like phase 1 through 3 is about dads, and like phase 4 through maybe 5 is about refugees, and we're kind of like, wait, is it?
Yeah, because like they're everywhere. I'm not saying that refugees are everywhere, but like the plot line has been pervasive and almost everywhere. What is the reason?
Because of Thanos' snap, and then they have to respond to what happens when half your universe gets destroyed.
Right, but I mean, like, but I think the point being just these MCU projects as a whole seem to be circling that, because again, like, it's not just things on Earth. It'll be things like with the Guardians. It'll be the Skrulls, who are not necessarily just because of Thanos' snap, but just in general. The Asgardians ending up on Earth. All these kinds of things. And yeah, it makes sense as a logical response to the snap. Sure. You can aren't God, it's been a minute since I've thought about, but Quantum Mania, aren't all the people who live inside the quantum realm refugees from somewhere else?
Is that the case? I honestly don't remember.
Yes. The people that Scott and Cassie meet up with are refugees within the quantum realm because of what Kang did in his city.
Right. And they have to,
Secret Wars.
I don't. See, the problem isn't necessarily doing it, because like that's a fine theme to deal with. It's the problem is not doing anything with it. I think is probably why it's so fascinating and frustrating that they are doing this so frequently.
So I'll say something that I wish I didn't have to say about Secret Invasion, but it's true. I don't mind if they don't resolve the Skrull stuff. Like, where is their home in the show? And what I mean by that is because the most real story you can tell if you are trying to tell a story about a refugee crisis is the fact that it's kind of not solved. For a lot of them, it's not. And that there maybe isn't an easy solution. And there's a good way to tell that in a story and have that mean something, and there's a bad way to tell that in a story
and have it not
mean something.
You know what I think I would love for this show to do, and I know they're probably not, but like, why can't just Skrulls live on Earth with us? Why can't they just be with us? Why can't this be just like, yo, let's just integrate Skrulls into like their people too, and they are displaced just like people on Earth are displaced all the time. Like, why can't they just live on Earth? Like, they might not be happy, but at least they'll have somewhere to live. Like, they can choose where they live if they want to.
I'm wondering if this is the goal that Nick is working towards with Saber.
Yeah.
If Saber is partially a Skrull monitoring system, just so you know, you don't got anybody like messing up other people by shapeshifting into them.
I don't know if having a list of every Skrull like on a database up in space is like exactly the best thing to do.
Oh, sure. I mean, like, where would he get that from?
Yeah.
Shield?
No, yeah. I'm not saying, again, I don't make the same mistake you did last time. Because then you can just have some guy steal all that information. I'm like, I think Snick's smarter than that.
I guess I think, well, he's smarter than that, you're correct. But I wouldn't say he's more morally upstanding beyond doing it.
I just don't think any of our better ideas are what the show is going to do.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Are more, like hopeful about the world ideas.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. You're right.
Do we have any, we running around? You have any final thoughts or anything?
I don't have much more. I guess I can say I'm excited to see where Talos and Gaia goes. I like their scene after the taxi cab. I hope looking forward to more there.
All of the captured humans that the Skrulls are pretending to be are dead.
You think so?
They will be. The whole point is that humans can't live there because of the radiation poisoning.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
the reason that they're there. They established that. So whenever these guys get free, they probably have some amount of radiation.
Oh my god,
poisoning.
some dude. Chernobyl is like the most.
It depends on which site they're at, right?
Yeah.
And what level they're. But yeah, and how long they've been there.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that.
A lot of these people are dead.
Yo, they're all gonna get
they're all gonna get saved. They're all gonna get saved at the end of the show.
And
we're gonna be like, yeah, but they aren't.
Yeah. This is straight up just what happened in Chernobyl, where like thousands of people just got cancer.
I'm calling it right now. They are going to save them before this series is over, and they are 100% going to forget about the radiation.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
No, you know why? Because
all
the dome where the humans are was shielded for their protection.
Oh, 100%.
Because their bodies would wither.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh my god. You know what? Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I love steaks. Medium rare steaks.
I don't have anything else in my notes. I will just say, for a first episode, it was rather disappointing.
Sure.
And I hope that it picks up.
I will throw out one last positive, which is I think the Skrull makeup is not only good, but looks significantly better than Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
I think it looks very, very good now.
They do a good hat. They do a hat transition. I'm like, look at that. I love that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I think they're really looking solid in this show. And for the amount that we see, especially like when we're inside the refugee camp, like I think they look really, really good.
Yeah.
Did the guy that Mendelsohn impersonate die?
Did he ever exist at all?
Yes, because he knew Fury.
Sure.
Because he was the director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I bet you that question will be answered at some point in the show.
I bet it was answered in Captain Marvel. It's just been a while since I've
don't think it was.
I hope it wasn't, because I want to see him go like, yeah, I met this guy at a bar once and I like his look. I want that to be the place.
Because Talos took that form because he was the director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And he knew Fury. And so I'm wondering, like, did that guy just die?
That's right. Probably.
Anyway, probably is the
Ben,
answer.
you got any final thoughts?
But just of old age.
Episode 1. Yeah, of old age, yeah. Of course.
I hope that the series gets better. I mean, if I'd had to be perfectly honest, the very beginning of this, or the beginning episode, I know it's the pilot, I know it's the thing that's supposed to hook you in, but really there just wasn't a whole lot there for me, to be perfectly honest. I love spy thrillers. I mean, I watched Mission Impossible 3 earlier today. Fantastic movie. Little spoilers for our mainline episode that's out right now. I just hope it gets better. But at the same time, I'm at this point with Secret Invasion, I hope for the best, but I'm expecting the worst. I hope that they do correct the course and it does turn out to be a fantastic show. But at the same time, Marvel has kind of bit us in the ass, especially the Marvel television shows have bit us in the ass more times than they haven't. And they just go, when you think they're going to zig, they not only zig, they zig hardcore. So I'm at this point, I might give it to episode 3. If episode 3 doesn't like really grab me, I might not be on the rest of it. I might just be like, nope, I don't want to waste my time, or not waste my time. That's a little too harsh, but I'm just not really into it. As of right now, I'm a little intrigued, but I'm not like, oh man, I can't wait to the next episode. I'm just like, it's there.
Yeah, dude, I feel you. I am more positive in that, but I'm not as hot as much love the other MCU pilot episodes. But there is enough where I'm just hoping that, like I said from the beginning, I hope it isn't a stretched season. I hope that like each episode can breathe, and it doesn't feel like they're just wasting time. Because I like enough of what the setup is, and I hope they got all of the all of like the big reactions, like, whoa, they killed this character. Oh, he was a Skrull at the beginning. Like, I hope they're not gonna lean into that, because like I don't like. Sure, Rhodey's a Skrull, but like, will that be meaningful? If you write it to be meaningful, sure, but like execution so far of the big twist stuff hasn't been good. So
Right.
I like you, Ben. I am hoping for the best, but like if it stays like this, I'm gonna be like, no, it's fine, it's good.
Yeah. I don't want to be the guy who constantly says it's going to be mid, but once again, it's eh.
Yeah, no, I get you.
It's
bro. I
fine.
get you.
He built
Why don't
up to
you,
that like a sneeze.
Why don't you take us out of here, Brandon? McClure?
If there's nothing else, that was Secret Invasion, guys. We will probably be a little inconsistent with this Fake Nerds Watch series because of our kind of lukewarm response to this first episode. We don't want to force ourselves to do more.
I think we can be really honest about it, which is that if episode 2 is just like, oh, banger, we got to talk about it, then we'll be here after episode 2 and we'll talk about it. And if it isn't, then maybe after episode 3 or maybe later. Basically, whenever we feel like, oh, it's time to talk about it, we'll be back.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And if by episode 6 we still haven't talked about it, well, I guess you know what our feelings
And
were.
then we'll be back at episode 6.
Full season review, baby.
All right, so that's Secret Invasion, guys. That's Secret Invasion Fake Nerds Watch. We're back here with the MCU. This isn't the only Fake Nerds Watch series going on. There is a sister show to the Fake Nerds Watch. It is going on. Star Trek Strange New Worlds has begun, and so has our Fake Nerds Watch series. I am joined with Sparkz and Ryan.
Hey,
to talk about that.
We're Star Trek boys now.
You're Star Trek boys now. You're welcome.
We're the
Welcome.
Trekkies.
Welcome on board. We're going through that episode by episode. So stay tuned. The first episode is up now. Second episode coming roughly soon, I guess.
When does the episodes come out?
Thursday.
Thursdays. Got it. Okay.
And I watched them Wednesday night like a madman.
No, I get it.
That's a good show.
We all have those shows. Yeah.
So you know, be on the lookout for more episodes for those. Of course, there's other shows on this channel. If you like this video and you subscribe to this channel, you can check out. Please like this video, by the way. You can check out Basement Arcade Pause Menu. 3 episodes of Basement Arcade Pause Menu. 3 new episodes of Basement Arcade Pause Menu went up this past week.
Wow.
Wild week for Basement Arcade Pause Menu. Of course, there is also Animation Station, Fake Nerd Book Club, and The Real Score. New episode of Real Score coming soon. There is also, guys, it's back. Stay tuned. Miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is back. The show we launched, God knows how many years ago. Sparkz knows how many years ago.
I can tell you.
2018.
I can tell you because my podcaster thing updated for the first time in over 4 years.
It is back to talk about the Indiana Jones MacGuffins. I talked about the Ark of the Covenant in the first episode. That is available in its new format video, and of course there is the audio feed as well. There is plenty more Indiana Jones stuff. I know you're Marvel fans. You're watching this. You're a Marvel fan. What else were you a fan of? Well, if you're a fan of Indiana Jones, you can check out some more Indiana Jones stuff, including Conversation, where I have talked to Ken Knapsack, which is my solo show. I talked to Ken Knapsack about Indiana Jones. More stuff in Indiana Jones coming, but on the Fake Nerd Podcast, guys, the show that all things come from, the Fake Nerd Podcast, that goes live every Sunday. If you'd like to join us, please do. We have probably, this is not going out tomorrow, right, Sparkz?
Who knows? Maybe.
So if this, you know what? I'll just blanket it. The last episode we just did was Mission Impossible 3 and 4. We did the 3rd Mission Impossible and the 4th Mission Impossible. We are getting ready for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. So stay tuned for that. And upcoming this week, this coming Sunday, will be Indiana Jones on the Dial of Destiny. Very excited. Hopefully I love it. Can't wait. All right.
Hopefully we all love it.
Hey, to give you some good news, a podcast that I really like. All 3 people said they saw Indiana Jones and they all loved it, and they're people I all respect. So take that, cons, maybe.
There we go.
Hope.
Of course, guys, thank you so much for watching this. Thank you so much for listening to this. You can find this show and all the others on Fake Nerd Podcast on all the social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter, where I also write for CBR.com, KaijuRamaMedia.com, where I'm also the editor, and AtomicGeekdom.com. Ben, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me not being a Skrull at BenMagnet27 at Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and also writing for Fusion Gaming Magazine, Old School Gamer Magazine, GoNintendo.com, and playing Mary Frankenstein on D and Dark.
Sparkz.
You can find me looking really closely into the mirror and asking myself, am I a Skrull? At Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
And Ryan.
You could find me getting shot in the chest and just laying on the pavement and having a good old close zoom in. You're going, wait, why did you kill that character that we all wanted to see more of? At DJ Tony Snark 616.
So, all right, guys, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel. Until next time we see us, stay fake nerds.